Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Health, Wealth, and Anything Else. Welcome back, everybody. We have a super exciting episode coming up. We're speaking to Lewis Huckstep. He's a mindset coach from Australia. Going to have a little chat with him about what he does, and let's get right on and meet him. Well, hello, welcome to the show.
And welcome. I'm ready to rock and roll, ready to chat, and ready to go wherever this goes.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one. So, do you want to just give us a little background on what it is you do?
Yeah, man, for sure. I guess my story from a nutshell is I started in the fitness industry. That's where I've originated from. So I love the health and wealth aspect of this because they're two good topics that I think I've had some good experience with. So I started in the fitness industry when I was 18, and I did work experience. I did work experience for 2.5 years, but really was really committed and all in on this venture because I love learning. I was looking for an opportunity, and I got an opportunity which I grabbed with both hands, and that transpired into owning a fitness franchise. Then that expanded to two. Then we expanded to three, and that was all within the space of a couple of years. So by the age of 22, I had 3 studios. But honestly, I went too quick. I didn't have the right resources, the leadership, the skill set to be able to handle that. And I was doing it. I was probably chasing those goals for the wrong reasons, for status and titles, and trying to impress other people that don't even care about you, to be honest. So it's
Yeah.
along the whole way though, when I was doing that, I've always been huge into self-development, really from the psychological aspects, human behavior, communication, why we are the way that we are. It's something I've really been fascinated about. And along the whole way when I was doing the gyms is I was kind of coaching people, obviously with their health and fitness, because that's obviously a part of being at a gym. So would help them with their goals physically, with their food, with their training, but I'd become, for any personal trainers who listen to this, you become your client's little therapist, and you become their little life coach, and you help them through those areas of life that they're struggling with. And it was just a passion of mine. I really, really enjoyed it. And I guess prior to COVID, just before COVID happened, I sold one of the studios just because of a business partnership that we didn't see eye to eye on. And then went through COVID with the two, came out the other side, had to navigate through that, which is a story in itself. And then sold the other one, or one of the other ones, about 6 weeks ago. So mid 2022. And since that one had sold, I've gone all in on the mindset coaching. But I've been doing it a lot kind of adjacent to what I've been doing for about sort of 5 years. But now that I've stopped chasing those goals for the wrong reasons and got clear on what I love, what the purpose is, what I'm here to do, and then actually putting all my time and energy into that. Just been so much happier, more fulfilled, achieving more, ironically. And I guess to answer the question is what I do now is I help bring consciousness to people. I help people mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. That is a part that I do help people with. It's not, I wouldn't call myself a financial coach or any that specializes in that, but it is a part of it because I believe that's a part of life. So I help people become authentic, get clear on who they are, what do they love, what are their values, what's their purpose, what's their mission, what's their vision, get clear on the life that they want to live, and then work with them to overcome any mental and emotional limitations that they might have, whether that's confidence, self-image, self-worth, anxiety, depression, any traumas. I do a lot of trauma healing with my clients as well. So get clear on who they authentically are, what do they want, what do they want to fulfill, and then help them overcome all the mental limitations and blockages that would stop them from fulfilling it. So that's kind of the spiel I give when people ask that.
Yeah, that's interesting. You've been through a lot of stuff already, and a lot of stuff we talk about. I think for me the mindset, which I think you probably agree with, that's kind of where it all starts. Like in terms of you had the financial, you had the physical health aspects, but I feel like the mindset is where you need to get it right first to go on and do those things. So like you said, you're kind of helping people with all aspects, but I think the mindset is kind of where it starts from.
It's it depending on it's the part that most people don't probably work on, because there's probably, in my opinion, that's probably why I love what I do, is there's probably just not enough of it, I guess, spoken about or taught. It's, you don't get taught any of it at school, right? You don't get taught how to heal or how to navigate or regulate your emotions. I'm sure some places do, but definitely the schooling system I went through didn't teach me that. And it's and limiting beliefs and your ego, and the list goes on. It's just things that we don't get taught about. So because it's just, I guess, and it becomes taboo, mental health is quite a taboo topic and quite sensitive to a lot of people, which in itself I think is quite interesting, where it's such a rising challenge, but then it's taboo to talk about it at the same time. I think that's quite contradicting, but it's I definitely, it plays one of the bigger roles, because just not many people have the answers. They don't know where to start. That's a lot of people go out to therapy, or they go sort of down that route, which I'm a big fan of. But definitely just not getting taught those skills of how do you get clear on your mental limitations, your limiting beliefs that you're unconscious of, and bring that to the conscious, and then be able to overcome that and rewrite and rewire yourself literally to have what you want. So I definitely think it's the one that I guess just gets missed the most, because I just don't think there's enough awareness around it and enough guidance and enough content out there that allow people to work through it.
Yeah, I agree. I was actually thinking, I think yesterday, I was thinking about it and thinking that obviously over the last couple of years, I've really got into it. And so I see a lot of it because I follow people that are in that space, like with what you're saying and other stuff. But then I was thinking, for most other people, they probably don't see a lot of it because there isn't a lot of it around. Like you said, there's not a lot of people talk about it. I feel a lot of people don't actually understand quite how broken their mindset is until
Mm,
someone shows them what you actually can do and how you can change it.
100%.
Mhm. So to give us a little, because we like to talk about business and financial wealth stuff as well. So give us a little bit of info on how you got started with your businesses, because that's quite an interesting one too.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, and so I do believe that everything's happening for you, and that your life's, I guess, path sort of creates itself as you go pursuing it, and the more conscious you have, the consciousness that you gain along that path, the further the path you'll be able to see in the distance. And I guess when I'd started, I was in year 12. I repeated year 12. I did a lot of sports growing up. So I did have the ambitions of chasing physical, professional athlete dreams. And it was a big goal of mine, but I just started to lose the passion towards kind of the end of school for me. And I repeated year 12 to get into university, because from back then, when you hear about success back then, for me, it was go to university, get a high paying job, do that for 30 so plus years, and a white picket fence and all that good stuff. So that was literally my intention. Because I was doing so much sport, I split my year 12 over 3 years. So my school offered that. So it's called a 3-year senior. So you pretty much do year 11 and 12 over 3 years instead of 2. And I did that to give me enough time to keep up with my sporting and my study. And then in my second year, my life plan was to get into to be a high school teacher. That was my plan. And then be a personal trainer during the holidays. So that was because you make more money, help more people, and all that stuff. So that was very much the trajectory early days for me. And then in my repeat year of year 12, I wanted to get the ball rolling, start to get into the fitness industry, start to, I guess, learn the ropes and get involved. And I started to apply at heaps of jobs. I remember I went into I think I applied to like sort of 15, 20 gyms in the local area. They all said, no, you've got no experience. I'm like, well, how do you get any when you're having that, when no one will take you? So I ended up jumping on Gumtree one day randomly. And I remember there was a place in Burleigh and they're like hiring. I remember calling this person up and saying, hey mate, look, I don't want any money. I just want to come down. I just want to work for free, just get some experience and just get things started. Because it's like when you're early days, you've either got experience or you've got time. And at then I had no experience, I had time. So it's like, I couldn't give any skills or anything because I didn't really have any. But I had the time there, just be there to learn. And pretty much went out there and said, look, I don't have any skills in the industry. I love helping people. I'm a passionate person. I'm quite sporty. I'm into sport. I train quite hard, and I've got my Cert 3 and 4 in fitness, which I had at that time. And I just started there, and I didn't have the intention of getting into business, to be frank with you. It wasn't, that ambition was still there. This was just kind of the pathway to become a personal trainer. That was the goal. But obviously getting in there, get into self-development. Within that, I think first 12 months, I got into Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and learned like trading time for money, cash flow quadrant, and how trading time for money, you'll never be free by the definition of it. So through doing that, it really challenged my way of thinking around what it is that I want to do. So I'd gotten into university, which is why I repeated year 12. And then between that repeat year, I had read the book and then I decided to drop out of uni. So I repeated year 12 to get in, which I did get into university, but then dropped out of it after reading this book. And for anyone listening, I would highly recommend get into Rich Dad Poor Dad's content if you haven't already. And I guess like I said, the path wasn't there for me. I just started to walk down it and I started to just sort of figure my way out, learned obviously a lot about sales, about marketing. But the beautiful thing about doing business, I see it as such a self-growth vehicle, because to be successful in it, it forces you to grow. It forces you to learn, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whether it's leadership, hiring, culture, systems, processes, whatever it may be. So the first probably 2.5 years when I was working for free, I was just taking so much action. I was talking to everyone. I was passionate about what it is I was doing. I loved helping people. I was good at connecting with people and building a great relationship with them and helping them get a result health and fitness wise. And then that just by the kind of, I guess, the journey of my business partner, my ex-business partner that I was with, it just transitioned into me owning the business. And he sold it to me at a very cheap price, given the previous work that I'd done leading up to that, while he would then go out and open up more of them and start to franchise the gym out. And yeah, I didn't have the plan for it. To answer your question, I didn't have the plan to I'm going to come down and open up a business, because I didn't think that was possible. I didn't have that self-belief, because I was very conditioned for that traditional mindset, go to university, et cetera. So yeah, I didn't have the mindset of doing it, but just by, again, following my calling and just figuring out, taking action and just starting to listen to myself. That probably came a little bit later, probably about 3-4 years into it, starting to like listen to myself a little bit more about, does this really fulfill me? Is this really the right decision for me? Like early days, it was very much achieve. And that mindset, which really burnt me out. It really, it did get to me after a couple of years. So, but no intention of it. I just got down there. I was looking for an opportunity. I was hungry for an opportunity. And I just started taking action, listening to my mentor, got into self-development, into Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, as I mentioned earlier, and just started to get heavy into self-development. So yeah, I guess that was the journey. And then again, we went from 1 to 2, and then from 2 to 3, and way too prematurely. The business wasn't, the other gyms weren't running really well without me. I was needed at both. At one point, I was running class at 1 in the morning, we're running class at the other at 9, and just trying to keep it afloat. So it very much wasn't it was a business built on a foundation of sand. It was not a strong foundation for a business. So, but they're all lessons that have been learned along the way, and it's been an incredible journey to learn it. But yeah, didn't have the intention of being a business owner, but just going down the path, it just kind of transpired into that.
That's interesting. It's as well really interesting where you spoke about reading the book by Robert Kiyosaki as well, and just that understanding of money. Again, it's another thing I think people don't understand. People don't understand how money works, the fact that it's kind of not really real. It's just invented on a screen. And
Yeah.
like you said about trading time for money, is you'll never achieve anything if you're just exchanging that. It's quite interesting you learn that at such a young age, and kind of understood that and put it into practice, because that's something that I think people again find quite difficult. We're conditioned when we grow up. Everything you're taught at school, everything you see, everything you're told is just you're conditioned a certain way about money, and the fact that a 9-to-5 job is what you should do for your whole life. That's what the goal is. And it's, I'm sure that's helped you a lot learning that so young. I kind of understood that fully and learned that a lot later on in my life than what you did. And I think you look at everything completely differently once you know that.
Yeah. Yeah, you just can't look at the world the same way. It's like, I think it's a quote in the book is, wealth is it's seen by the successful. It's the wealth is not seen. Like one person would see something as a problem, where a wealthy person would see it as an opportunity. So it's just having that consciousness. You literally see the world differently, right? So yeah, it's by being able to just dive into the content and learning it, which is all available online. Like listen to this podcast right now. Like this is a free podcast, and there's probably millions of podcasts that are on the topics that you're interested in. There's YouTube videos, there's obviously books. So the content's out there. It's just people, some people are just oblivious and they're not looking for it. Some people are looking for it, but haven't been given the opportunity or the consciousness yet. But if you're willing to do it and you're wanting that change and you're wanting to work on any area of your life, there's a good mentor of mine, Jack DeLosa, that I've worked with. He's a big business mentor in Australia. And he says it all the time, like what everything in life is a skill. Sales is a skill. Money intelligence is a skill. Leadership is a skill. Good communication is a skill. Marketing is everything in that you want to get better at is a skill. Some people are naturally talented at certain things, like playing a sport. You might be naturally talented at it, but that sport is still a skill. So, and the beautiful part when it comes to say money and business and these things, a lot of them can be learned. A lot of them you don't need to be naturally born with certain gifts to do it. So if you're willing to, do the work, you're willing to actually do the searching, paying, investing into mentors, into courses, into things that are going to help you grow, there's no reason why you can't achieve it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that kind of ties in with the other point you made about the fact that running that business forced you to keep improving yourself and keep learning. And that's something that I'm really big on, is that we should always be looking to improve ourselves, to better ourselves, to change. I hate the fact of where people use it as such a negative, saying, "Oh, you've changed," as like a negative thing. I hope I've changed. It's a good thing. And like you said, with all the skills you can learn, if you want to do business, you want to do other stuff, whatever it is, you can just keep learning skills, keep improving yourself, and you'll get there. And self-improvement is something that should never stop, I think.
100%. 100%. Tony Robbins 101 is that you're growing or you're dying. There's no in between. Plateauing, when you're plateauing in life, you feel shit. So it's either you're growing or you're dying, and there's no in between.
Yeah, I agree that completely. Good news, our podcast is now available on another new platform. This one is called Newsly. It's an all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android. It basically finds the trending articles on the web for any topic you can think of, and it reads them out to you in a natural human voice, so you don't even have to read them yourself. You can follow any kind of topics on there. There's sports, there's business, health, Bitcoin, even the Kardashians if you really want to know about them. And they also have podcasts, of course, your favorite, the Health Well podcast is there. They've got podcasts from over 80 countries, and I listen to all of my podcasts on there now, and they even have digital radio. So you can download and use Newsly for free from www.newsly.me or from the link in the description. And if you use the promo code WEALTH, I'll also put that in the description, you will get a 1 month free premium subscription. So go and download Newsly now, subscribe to our podcast, and get your 1 month free. So in terms of with your mindset coaching and stuff, what's kind of, do you have a certain goal in mind when people come to you? Is it just going to depend completely on the situation they're at and where they need to get to? What's kind of the normal thing you have with people?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess the journey that I generally take people on, I'll go from start to end, and then some people come during sort of different stages of that journey. So what I first work with, depending if someone's like coming in and they've got an urgent problem that they want to sort of address then and there. So that's kind of, that's a situation thing. Like I've had a client who's come in and she's the owner of a Pilates studio, and she's having issues with her business partner and just how to negotiate and communicate that. That was like a very specific thing. So that's not a common thing that I work with. But I guess what my general, I guess, journey that I take a client on is I help them be authentic, because before you can go anywhere, you need to know where you are right now. So who are you? Who's the real, the authentic Ryan Douglas? Who are you? What do you love? What are your values? What are you here to do? What's the life that you want to create? So I always start with that. So we go values first. Then for me, again, depending on the client, sometimes I'll do some things in different orders, but this is overall, it's all roads lead to Rome here. But we go values first. So the first thing I start with, because it gets you clear on who you are, what do you love, what's meaningful to you, what does a fulfilled life look like to you, where are your strengths, where are your weaknesses, where are your insecurities, like where's your confidence lie, where's your wealth lie. There's a lot of it's the foundation of human behavior. So I always start with values. Then depending on the person, I'll generally go, what's their purpose, mission, vision? So what's their purpose here? Because how many people say, I lack motivation. I don't know what I'm doing for my life. I don't know where I want to go. So that's, and the values generally tie into a lot of these next topics I'm going to say. So we then go purpose. What are they here to do? Why are you on this planet? What's your existence here for? Then from there we go mission. What do you want to do in the next 5 to 10 years? What's your big, hairy, audacious goal that you want to achieve over the next 5 to 10 years? That we can break that down. Then we go vision. Your vision is an expanded version of your mission. So it's kind of like day to day, what does your day look like? What does your relationship look like? What does your wealth look like? What does your health look like? What does your business look like? Whatever's meaningful to you? For me, learning. What does your learning look like? Like what books do I want to have had read by them? What teachers and mentors do I want to have learned from? So I guess what is the vision in your life in the areas that are most important to you? So they're generally the first two I'll go with. So values, purpose, mission, vision. Then we go through a lot of mental and emotional tools, things to navigate their emotions, how to regulate their emotions, what's their ego, how to heal traumas and wounds, and etc. How to remove judgment from their self and others, how to overcome anxiety, how to overcome depression. I'm just trying to think of the main ones. They're the main ones. There's some little ones that tie into the same tools that solve those ones. And then we wrap that into creating a master plan, which is essentially taking what's the purpose, the mission, the vision, then breaking that down into tangible goals. So you've got your purpose, what do you want to be remembered for? Your mission, what are you going to do in the next 5, 10 years? Then what are you going to do in the next 12 months? What are you going to do in the next quarter, month, week, then day? So you've got daily outcomes, which are leading to weekly, weekly to monthly, monthly to quarter, quarter to yearly, yearly to mission. So then you've got a tactical, practical, implementable plan of things that you can start doing right now to start moving the needle and start moving forward in the direction of things that are meaningful to you, because they're all derived from your purpose. And you've got a toolkit with heaps of mental and emotional tools to navigate whatever shows up for you: the stress, the overwhelm, the frustration, the depression, the anxiety, the judgment, whatever shows up in your world. You've got a full toolkit to be able to handle and navigate anything that shows up. That's kind of the whole journey I go with clients. If they're one-on-one with me, generally we'll apply everything I said specifically to the stuff they're dealing with. Like I said, like I mentioned, that Pilates studio owner, like she had some more business stuff. I don't deal too much with business clients for business reasons. I do deal a lot of my clients are business owners, but it's more the mental stuff that's limiting their business, because your business is a reflection of you. If you've got some shit happening personally, it's going to show up in your business. So, but I don't market myself as or call myself a business coach. There's certain things I can do. I've run fitness franchises. I understand how to hire yourself out of a business, how to remove yourself from a business, how to hire people, how to have great culture and great leadership. But I definitely don't niche myself into a business coach. But yeah, so that's generally the journey I'll take a client on. And then depending on their own personal situation, we might go on some detours that will fall under the same umbrella of the stuff we're teaching about. But that's generally the journey that I'll take a client on.
That's interesting. And really, one of the great things about that is all the goals you're setting and the plan. Like, it's so important to have a plan of what you're doing. So many people are just stumbling from one thing to the next through life with no real idea, and then wondering why they're ending up in the wrong place. Like, just having a plan, having it set out. Just it sounds so simple when you say it, but so many people don't do that. So building that plan of what people are doing is so important. That's such a good thing to have to, I think, be able to achieve anything. You're unlikely to really achieve anything good without a plan. You'll have to get unbelievably lucky for that. So that's really good. The other thing I just wanted to highlight as well, because I've spoke a bit about this before, in terms of things like depression and anxiety.
Yep.
What's the kind of things that you advise people around dealing with them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And obviously I always say trigger warning, this is not medical advice. If you're seeing someone continue to see them, this is just one man's opinion that you're hearing on a podcast that you've never met before. So don't listen to what I'm about to say. But which one? They're different topics. They are different. They can affect each other if you kind of are experiencing both of them. But if we start with anxiety I think is more common these days. But I haven't looked at the statistics on that, but so anxiety for me, this is the way I generally work with my clients and explain it. Anxiety is a normal thing. It's a normal emotion and feeling you're going to feel. And people, when they live in a world where they try to disown a part of themselves to love themselves, is futile. You're never going to succeed. It's like saying, I'm only going to love myself if I'm never sad. You're going to be sad. You can't experience happiness without sadness. You need the polarity of those two. So anxiety is fight or flight. Back in the day when you and me were cavemen, Ryan, and we were in our cave and a tiger walked past, we would get anxious because our sympathetic nervous system would activate. We would instantly look for what's wrong and look for a way to survive. That's what anxiety is there for. It serves a purpose. But back in the day, the tiger would then walk away, it would turn off, and then we'd go back to enjoying our life, right? So that's generally how it would work. But most people, because they don't understand that, they live in that. So anxiety is a good thing if it's used the way we're designed for it to be used. But then there's another form of, so there's healthy anxiety. It's going to be there. Like say you were driving your car and say a car in front of you started driving straight towards you, about to hit you. You probably want to be anxious in that moment so you can look for a way to get out of the way. So anxiety is going to serve you in that moment. It's got benefits to being there. However, if you live there, it's probably going to overwhelm you. You're going to have hormonal burnout, adrenal fatigue, and all the above. So you want to learn how to regulate your emotions when you need to, which is something I'll get to soon. But then there's triggered anxiety. So this comes into triggers, traumas, etc. So say anxiety as a whole stems from a feeling of being unsafe. But everything we just spoke about, the tiger walking past, you're feeling unsafe, fight or flight kicks in, you want to survive, right? So say you've been through something traumatic. So say, for example, you witness mum and dad have a big abusive argument and physical fight in front of you. You're probably going to feel very unsafe and very scared in that moment. And if that, depending neurologically how you experience that, the age you were and what you went through, if that becomes something that's traumatic to you, the next time you see some conflict in a relationship, either your own relationship or someone else's, that might trigger that memory in you. And when you're triggered, you revert back to who you were and what you were feeling back when that trigger occurred. So that might trigger that anxiety that you felt back then. So there's triggered anxiety, there's natural anxiety. It's the one that you want to happen to keep you alive, to avoid the car from hitting you, etc. But then there's triggered anxiety where it's coming from something you haven't healed through. And there's a process to do that. But if we've got enough time, we can chat about that. And then there's anxiety where it's like you're just overthinking it. You're living in that anxiety and you don't know how to regulate your emotions. So that's where meditation, breath work, stillness, grounding yourself, stuff like that, where you just want to learn how to regulate, calm, be present. And that's pretty much how I basically work with it. So I'll have to obviously get examples. Is this being triggered by things I haven't healed through? Then we'll go through and heal those things. Or is it something they're just conditioned to get anxious because they think that's normal. They've got a story. If there's limiting beliefs might tie into it. They might believe that they're an anxious person. You will always confirm your beliefs. If you believe you have anxiety, you will find things to reaffirm that. You'll find ways to make that true. So you want to condition that. So just a small tip for anyone listening right now, stop saying you have it or you suffer from it or you are an anxious person. Just change that from I have it to I experience it. That little change alone will start to make a difference because I experience it. I experience it almost on a daily basis. A little example, I was holding my cup with a tea in it the other day and I almost dropped it. And you know, like when you almost drop things, but you grab it really quickly, that 1 microsecond, I felt anxious because I almost dropped my cup. That's anxiety. You're never going to experience it. It's a normal fucking feeling. So that's the first thing I always address. It's normal. Stop judging yourself for it. But if it's coming from traumatic things, we want to go heal through that. Or if it's just happening all the time and you're really conditioned to it, there's one little caveat that I would add on top of that is it's a stacked experience. So let's use that example. Mum and dad had a fight when you were younger. Say dad was wearing a black shirt and blue jeans. And the next day, and you saw them fight, you felt anxious, felt unsafe. The next day, you're walking down the street, you see another gentleman who looks like your dad, but it's not your dad, but he's wearing black shirt and blue jeans. So it reminds you of that, and it's similar enough to trigger the same experience. Then you get anxious again. So another stimulus triggered the same thing. The next day, you're walking down the street, you see someone with a gray shirt, blue jeans. Different, but again, similar enough to trigger that experience again. You continue that, then you've got fucking 30 references to trigger the one thing that you haven't healed from, which triggers anxiety in you. Does that make sense? So that's
Yeah.
kind of anxiety. Depression, and it's just as bad in terms of like people experience it not having answers to it. Is depression. I literally had this conversation with a friend of mine today. I went to a networking event today, and we're driving in the car. My brother calls me, and he's like, hey, I'm like, is everything okay? He's like, look, man, this girl you went to school with, her name's whatever. I'm like, yeah, I know her. She's like, she killed herself 2 days ago. I was like, holy shit. Well, hit me a little bit, got through, and then the conversation with my friend in the car, we're like, why do people commit suicide? And this can tie into depression. And the answer that, I guess, to articulate the best, it's when your blueprint of how life is meant to be or should be or has to be does not match your current reality. So things have to be a certain way, and if they're not, I feel shit. So how I explain depression, it's feedback to help you be authentic. Because we have values. I said that first. We start with values. You've got values, and let's use some generic ones for some people. Say your family, say your career, say your relationship. Say they're your top 3 values. If you do not prioritize them and do those things, you're going to feel fucking shit. You're going to have low levels of self-worth. And if you repeat that for a long enough period of time, it will transmute itself into depression. Like my highest values are coaching, learning, and wealth creation. So if I wasn't coaching, look at it, we're on here right now. We're doing a podcast. I'm doing coaching through a podcast, right? I'm coaching people, whoever listens to this, right? So I'm coaching people. I love learning. I learn by talking. I went to an event today to network and to learn something. I read books. I listen to podcasts myself. And I love wealth. I love building wealth. And your values come from your voids. That's a conversation for another time. But whatever was painful for you or a void for you in your upbringing will become important to you later. I lacked a coach and a mentor to guide me through life. I struggled learning in school. My parents and family really struggled with their wealth growing up. Money was painful for us. So that was painful for me. It's important to me now. So whatever your values are, if you do not prioritize them and let other people's priorities go ahead of yours, you will feel shit. You'll experience low self-worth. Low self-worth is feedback that you're not prioritizing your own values. That's it. And if you do that for long enough periods of time with enough intensity, it transmutes itself into depression. Are there other factors? Of course, exercise, healing through traumas. I mentioned the anxiety trigger thing. You might have a lot of triggers that trigger negative emotions in you and negative feelings in you. And that over a long time can condition you to feel a certain way. And definitely the people you hang around. If you hang around people that are quite negative, you're going to become that. So my formula for depression that I teach people, live in alignment with your values. That's number one. Honestly, guys, if you just do that, get clear on what's important to you and actually fucking do it, as simple as that sounds, it will help massively. Who's the authentic version of you? Not who you think you should be, you have to be, you got to be. Who are you authentically? And live like that. Be that person. Don't do things to impress people you don't give a shit about. I did that and I beat myself. I felt depressed over it because I wasn't being my authentic self. Look after your health. So that's good food, good nutrition. So eat well. If you eat shit, you're going to feel shit, right? So if eat good food, organic, natural, great foods, right? And exercise well as well. Number 3, heal through things. If you've got some trauma, some triggers that are triggering negative emotions consistently, it's not going to be great for you, right? And then number 4 is hang around good energy, whether that's friends, family members, employees, co-workers. You pick up people's energies, right? You hang around depressed people, you will be depressed. So those are my 4 tips on depression. So to summarize it, it's feedback that you're not being authentic. So prioritize yourself, be selfish to be selfless, fill up your own cups so you can pour from a full cup. Look after your health, train well, eat well. Heal through whatever you haven't healed through yet. There's a process I take people through. If you want to know how to do that, just send me a DM. And then number 4, cut off toxic energy. Make sure do an energy audit of the people in your life, your friends, your family, co-workers, and just make sure you got good energy in your life because you're going to pick up on that shit.
Yeah. So that's a lot of what I also believe and what I also say about depression. Pretty much the 4 things that you've listed there, pretty much things that I say about it too. One of my mentors said something similar to what you said. I think he said that you should really embrace depression, because what depression is your body or your mind telling you that you need to take some action. You need to do something. Like you're not where you want to be, where you need to be, because if you were, you wouldn't be feeling depressed. So you've got to try and embrace it and and do that, take action with it, and make something happen, which I think
Powerful, man.
is,
Powerful, man.
yeah, is true. And I just try to get people away from thinking, too many people think that depression is just something that you can't do anything about almost. And people shouldn't think that, because like you said, you've got your steps there. You need action steps, this, and you can deal with your depression, you can tackle it, you can change it, you can spin your life to a positive way if you take the action, if you put the work in, if you speak to someone like yourself who can point you in the right direction instead of just fighting it yourself and stabbing around
100%.
in the dark. And so it's trying to change people's mindsets to that absolutely you can change it, you can deal with it. Like anything you come across in life, you put the work in, you try it, you have the right plan, you take the right advice, you can deal with it.
100%.
It's not it's not a life limiting thing. It's something that you can absolutely sort out. And one thing as well that's interesting, I think you've been talking recently, you're doing like a 10-week challenge. Is it 10-week challenge, or is it?
Yep.
Yeah. So what exactly is that going to be? And also, if there's still space available, how can people sign up to that?
For sure. Well, it pretty much takes everything we just spoke about. So it's like it's been my life, my life calling to this point, anyways. And it's like as you go through the path becomes clearer as you go along it. And I've always like I'd go to a Tony Robbins event and I'd learn like a tool or something. I'm like, holy shit, that's so powerful. That can really improve the quality of someone's life. And my purpose is to improve the consciousness of mankind. And it's by learning these tools along the way from different mentors, whether it's Tony Robbins, Dr. John Demartini, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Kerwin Ray, Robert Kiyosaki, and just learning the ones that for me were like it's like those real big lessons. Like you'll read a book or you listen to a podcast, you're like, yeah, that was cool. You get like a couple of takeaways, a good analogy, a good story, something that really resonates with you, something that inspires you maybe. But along the way, there's definitely like some like key critical ones that have really shaped the way that I view the world, the way that I've been able to create and achieve the things that I've wanted to achieve. And when I learn those things, obviously learn about it, I make content on it, I help people with it. My personal clients that I take on, I've been taking on personal clients for about a year now in the mindset sort of space. And being able to then, because my passion is like, I've got some of the testimonials that I get from my clients. It like puts tears in my eyes. I had a gentleman, one of the guys I worked with recently, he sent me a voice message on it was like a couple of days ago, but he just sent me a voice message and he just said, it was just like expressing some gratitude to me. Like I was literally listening to this at like 9 PM at night. I was like crying. I was like, holy shit, this is beautiful. Thank you, man. It's because I think as men, probably a topic in itself is that men really get, I guess, conditioned to not show emotions, to be strong, to not open up and all that stuff. So to work with men that are able to do that really touches me. So essentially it's taking all of those tools and those real game changer beliefs and strategies that have really significantly impacted my life from the planning process, like going from, like I said, purpose, mission, vision to annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, dailies to daily huddles. Like in terms of structure, like you mentioned, like that's one piece of the puzzle. So you need to have a plan aligned with what's meaningful to you. So you're not just achieving goals and being great. What else? You're like, great, that's meaningful to you. So you actually enjoy the journey as well as the outcomes that you're going to achieve along the way. But then it's like, okay, well, stress is a huge thing. How do we navigate stress? Anxiety is a big thing. How do we navigate anxiety? Self-worth, confidence, depression, what we just spoke about. They're all things that have, I believe that you go through things that you help others with. So for me to teach these things, I've obviously experienced them all myself. So as I've gone through and learned from, again, either a book or a course or a mentor or a podcast, like learning things like, holy shit, this is massive. This can really significantly improve the quality of someone's life, bring the unconscious to the conscious. I then spend a lot of time figuring out how to articulate that. How do I do that? Through analogies, through diagrams, through question asking, through exercises that we do. And then I put that into a way that I can teach that. So this challenge, to answer your question, is pretty much what I said before. I gave kind of the story of how I like to help someone. It's doing that. So like week one, so it's a 10-week challenge. Each week we go through 1 to 2 tools. So first one, we do values, then we do purpose, mission, vision. Then we do, I got to remember off the top of my head, managing perceptions that allows you to not be triggered in the moment and also heal through things that you've been through. So if you And this is how you quantify judgment. If you can't say you're grateful for something, and that means the abuse, the sexual abuse, physical abuse, the neglect, the abandonment, the loss, the cruelty, the etc. It includes all of that. If you cannot say you're grateful for it, then there's still judgment there. And there's a process I take people through where it removes the judgment. It's a list of questions we go through based on their values. So you need to do values first, and you go through that. And by doing that, it will remove the judgment. So, and then the next one, I don't have it off the top of my head, but we go through the ego. What is the ego? How to identify it, how to overcome it. We go through judgment. So if you're judging others or judging yourself, how to solve that. Anxiety we've mentioned, depression we've mentioned. I think there's 20, I guess, topics or tools that we go through over the 10 weeks. So you do two an exercise. And at the end of it, you pretty much get to what I spoke about earlier. You understand who you are authentically, you understand where you're going and what's meaningful to you, with a plan attached to achieve it, with a whole toolkit to navigate the emotional things that are going to show up. The anxiety, the stress, the overwhelm, the guilt, the self-sabotage is huge. We go through that as well. Ego is huge. That's a very passionate one of mine that I've had to fight with and come to terms with. So essentially, it's everything I said before, in a challenge format. So a call once a week. There are spots available, to answer your question as well. There are spots available. Kicks off October 1st. But to be honest, guys, I'm going to be running this for the rest of my life. I'm going to obviously refine it. This is the first challenge I'm done in this structure. I'm going to also do weekend events version. So instead of doing it spread out over 10 weeks, once a week, we're going to do it over a weekend where it's like 2 days back to back of like 8-hour days. And we go through all like intensive. So it's the teachings will refine, of course. The I'm sure there'll be more. Like I'm learning every single day. I just went to an event today, like I mentioned. I read every single day. So as I obviously gain more consciousness on more things that can really help improve the quality of someone mentally, emotionally, spiritually, then that'll be added in there too. Meditation is a thing that just came to mind too. Meditations in the program. What is meditation? How do we meditate? How to incorporate that into their life? Affirmations we go through. It's some really, really awesome stuff.
That sounds good. It sounds good. I think if anyone is feeling like they need some help, then they should get signed up to that. It's definitely, like we
100%.
said before, it's just that having that plan and that structure there is going to make a huge difference. You also, the thing I really found from that was interesting was you said about you need to get people to a point where they were grateful for those experiences. And it's kind of along the same lines again. One of my mentors, he's talking more about money, but he says about the best start you can have in life is a bad start.
Cool.
Saying
Like
that
that.
basically, in order to appreciate money, like starting poor is the best thing. If you start off life rich, you'll never appreciate money. Saying if you
Mm.
start off poor, so if you have a bad start in something, then you will really appreciate, make the most of, and be grateful for the good things that then come. And I guess that can kind of be applied to the things you're talking about, that people in a bad place can then really appreciate being in a good place, whereas someone who's always been a comfortable life will probably not actually appreciate the fact that they're in a pretty good place.
Mm. Yeah, I definitely see truth in what it is that you're saying. I can see a limiting belief aspect of that, because it's like saying if someone who has a wealthy parent can never be successful because of their parents being wealthy, then so I believe in truth in that, though, because people that don't learn to appreciate money, and obviously that'll be something you'll be very passionate about given what you do and given the name of this podcast, and is if you don't value respect and I guess have the respect needed for money, then you won't have an abundance of it. So I definitely agree to that. It's been able to, how do you see that things are on the way, not in the way? And the process we go through is how you do that. So it's like, have you heard the Chinese farmer story? It gets overused, but I like using it. Are you familiar with the Chinese farmer story?
I'm not sure. Give it to us anyway.
It gets used very frequently, very simple, very basic, but it gets the point across. There's a Chinese farmer and he's got a wild horse, and the horse runs away, and the neighbors come to him and said, "Oh, that's so sorry. It's sad to hear. Sorry about that happening." And the farmer just says, "Maybe." And then a couple of days later, the horse returns with 7 wild horses. So he got some horses out of it. And the neighbors say, "Oh my God, you must be so happy." And the farmer says, "Maybe." And then the farmer's son tries to tame one of the horses, the wild horses. The horse kicks him off and breaks his leg. So the son breaks his leg, and the neighbors come up to him and said, it's too bad to hear that. And the farmer says, "Maybe." And then a couple of days later, a conscription officer comes up to recruit boys to take them to war, to take them to the army, but they decline the son because he's got a broken leg. And the neighbors come and say that you must be so happy about that. So, maybe. And the point of the story is you don't know what's leading to what. The challenges and the problems that you're going through right now are giving you the various skills and knowledge and mental grit to allow you to get the life that you've actually asked for. And that's hard to hear when you're going through it. So for someone going through it, regulate, breathe, reach out for help, get a good mentor, get a good circle around you, listen to the right books, condition yourself with the right beliefs. But everything that I went through that I'll use an example. This was one of the most painful fucking learnings that I had to go through is I was selling one of the businesses. I told you I had the 3 and I was selling one of them. So this is the first one I was selling. And I was burnt out. I was too stretched. I told you I was running. I was living off 4 or 5 hours sleep, and I was proud of it. I was saying, "Sleep when you're dead." That was my old mentality I used to have, but I don't live like that anymore. And anyways, I was selling the business. Me and my business partner weren't seeing eye to eye. I wanted to hire someone, he didn't, and it wasn't working. So we decided to sell it, and we had found a buyer, but the old manager of this business had left, so we needed to hire someone. We put up a Seek ad. Seek in Australia, it's like an ad hiring agency. And we hired this person, and this person obviously won't use people's names. I'll use the name Sarah. So Sarah comes in, and my gut didn't say yes to her. There was concerns. My intuition was like, this isn't the right person. But I was selling the business. I'd had enough. I was over it. We'd already got a buyer lined up. Like it was only going to go for about 2-3 months and we're going to sell the business. But just something didn't feel right. But me and my business partner, we both interviewed this person and we said yes to Sarah. And we said, yeah, let's get started. Long story short, this is a fucking conversation itself. But long story short, this person, she heard she might not have her job once we sell it. And I'm picking my words carefully here, but she makes a work cover claim, and work cover is like if you get injured at workplace, you get money paid to you and insurance essentially. Now, this is a lesson for me. One of the many lessons is have work cover insurance. I didn't have insurance because I didn't know what it was. I was 22 at the time, never had a proper job, never knew what the fuck work cover was. I didn't know what annual leave was. I didn't understand people got annual leave because I just worked all the time. I didn't understand what it was. So a good lesson for me, get work cover insurance. Good lesson, right? And anyway, so she filed for a work cover injury. It was a mental health injury in the workplace. On her medical certificate, it said a stress-induced injury. I don't know what that is either. And we went through back and forth, and over a 6-month period, she won. She won the case. And essentially, me and my business partner have to pay this person until she's recovered. And when are you recovered from a mental injury? Good question, right? When you're broken arm, it's when it's good, you're good to go. So whenever she was recovered and able to work again, we would stop paying. We had to pay her living expenses and her wages that she was already on. This went on for 2 years. That not listening to my intuition cost collectively $120,000. So I could bitch and complain and blame Sarah for this, but she gave me a valuable fucking lesson. 1, get work cover insurance, very simple lesson, right? But 2, listen to your intuition. If something doesn't feel right, it's probably because it's not right. And since then, with all my hiring, do you think I'm a little bit in tune to my intuition? Absolutely. I listen. If something's not right, I question it. I look into it, and it's improved my ability to hire people like no tomorrow. So even though it cost a lot of money to learn that painful lesson, it was an incredible lesson in itself. So yes, in the moment, I was stressed. I remember I was on the phone to this person when it said that we'd lost and we have to pay all this money. I broke down in tears because I had no money. This is during COVID. This was going through the pandemic. I had no money, and now we have to come up with all this money to cover this. And I was not in a good place. And it's, but again, that even though it was painful, it gave me such a valuable lesson. I wouldn't have the team in my business now that I'm so grateful for. Every single one of them, if you guys are listening, Mace, Chev, is Laken, you guys, I'm so grateful for every single one of them. And I wouldn't have the incredible team I have now if it wasn't for that painful lesson that I did learn through Sarah. So like the Chinese farmer, the broken leg, or in this case, the work cover issue where it cost X amount of dollars, it was painful in the moment, but it still led me to better things. So that's kind of how do you find that everything's on the way, not in the way? All those problems, all those challenges, all those failures, all those disappointments, all those humiliation, all of it is shaping you into the man or woman, or however you define yourself, of who you want to be to have the life that you've asked for. And that's kind of the way I like to teach it.
Yeah, I agree. It's framing everything. The way you look at everything, you can frame anything in positive light, I think, if you do it in the right way. And I think the thing with mistakes is that I feel you only learn properly from mistakes if they really go wrong and you learn it. If you kind of make a bad choice, but you just about get away with it, you're probably going to end up doing that again at some point. But if you make the
Yeah.
mistake like you made there, you're not going to make that mistake again.
Never,
You've learned that
never.
lesson. Yeah, I mean, it'd be better if you could learn from other people's experiences, but unfortunately, the best way people learn is from
Yeah.
their own mistakes and their own experiences. But like you said, if you can at least frame it positively and say, okay, this is terrible, but what can I learn from it? How can I improve my future with it? Then suddenly it's, still, like you said, painful and bad when you go through it, but you can have at least a positive look that, okay, I can use this for the future. And then in the future, like you said, now you look back and see where you did use it. So again, it kind of softens the blow and the experience of it by you like, okay, yes, that happened, but now look where I am. I think if you look at pretty much every really, really successful person in the world, whether that's in business, whatever, anyone who's really made a success of themselves, there will be a number of points in their life where they probably hit rock bottom. Like if it's in business, they will have gone completely broke and bankrupt at some point. Whoever's been successful has had terrible experiences, and it's how you deal with them. If you learn from it and you come back, you'll be successful. If you don't, then you won't be.
100%.
Yeah, I think I've learned a lot from this.
Thank you.
I hope people listening have. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here, and you'd be welcome to come back at any time that you wanted to, and hopefully you've enjoyed yourself too.
Man, it's been a pleasure. I like chatting. I like coaching.
Hmm.
It's my highest value. I coach quite frequently. So I love learning. When you learn, when I personally teach, I learn about because I can hear obviously the way it articulates. I've said things on this podcast that I probably haven't said that way before, and I'm like, that landed really well, that felt right, etc. So I've had an absolute blast, and hopefully, obviously, for me, it's serving someone. So if one person listens to this and they get something that they implement that improves the quality of their life, then I'm a happy camper.
Exactly. That's the way to do it. What I'll do is I'll put your social media and stuff in the link so people can find you and follow you. And like I say, if anyone feels that like they're interested in sign up to the challenge, I'd absolutely recommend it. And like I say, from speaking to you today and following you on social media, I see the things you talk about, and a lot of things you think the same as I do, and I would absolutely recommend people to do that, sign up to that.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
That's no problem. Thank you very much for coming, and I'm sure I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you so much. See you next time.
Well, I hope you guys found that as interesting as I did. That was a really great chat with Lewis. As I said before, I'll share all of his socials in the bio for the podcast, so you can follow him and have a look at his content. He's got a lot of great stuff he's putting out there. So I just thought I'd finish up this week with a little update on crypto for the people that are interested in that. So I mentioned last week that we might see a little bit of a pullback this week, which we did, more of a pullback than expected. So we pull back quite far down to, I think, Ethereum down to about 1500, Bitcoin is sort of low 21 at the moment. So the depth of the pullback kind of makes it look like there's still a possibility that we could go slightly higher towards the merge, but it's looking very small now. It's looking more likely that they've really front run the move for the Ethereum merge, and that we've maybe already topped out with it. So hopefully we get some kind of bounce this week. Could be a reasonable size one. It could be a small bounce and then we go further down. But from how it looks now, I would lean towards the fact that it looks like it's not going to go any higher from where it is. But I mean, sometimes in the market likes to make it look like it can't go any higher, and then it does go higher and kicks everyone out. Same as it looks like it won't go any lower, and then it goes lower. So you don't know. So there's still a chance that we could go higher to the merge, but with everything else around crypto, the other economic things going on as well, taken into account, and now with kind of how far we've pulled back on this, I mean, Ethereum's basically this week has wiped out 50% of the gains it made in the last sort of month and a half. Bitcoin's nearly taken all of it out. So it doesn't look too strong right now. So I would be betting on it not going any higher, but potentially it could. So we might have seen the top of it. So if we get a reasonable bounce, you probably want to be exiting, looking to exit positions if you've got any positions open. And if you're trading, probably once we kind of get a bounce, you probably want to be looking to short from there down if you're looking to trade it and watch the moves up and down. And then I kind of think we're probably then gonna probably probably kind of edge back downwards and sideways for a little while because, as I said, expecting that we're only a couple months away now from November time, end of October, November, which is kind of when we're expecting the market to bottom based on the previous year's cycles. So we're probably heading towards that. I imagine we'll head back down towards sort of, I mean, again, not in a straight line, but over time, head back down to, I mean, our current low is about 17, so we'll probably go below that. And then, as I said, to for the absolute bottom of the market where it's going to really hit its low, I think there's probably a good chance there'll be some kind of event that is gonna spike it down. It might not even stay at that lowest point for very long. It might literally spike down, come back up a little bit, and then pretty much sideways for the next year. So we'll see. I say we don't know. We make our best guesses, educated guesses around what we know and the data that's there, stuff's happened in the past, other people's opinions that know what they're talking about. So we'll see. But overall, it looks more than likely that that kind of move and trend up is over now, and that we're probably going to maybe, especially if we have not that good a bounce here, then that's more than likely that we're then going to continue the downwards momentum and head into kind of a downtrend over the next, I don't know, month or so. And there may not be any more much of a narrative around the merge. The merge may come and go with nothing really happening around it. It may have been that it was completely and utterly front run by a long way. So we'll see. But that's kind of where we are now. As I say, this week we'll be looking to get a bounce, but it might be a small bounce. I mean, it could even go right up to still retest the highs that we've had so far, which is just over 2,000 on Ethereum. I mean, potentially, like I said, there's a small chance that we could actually recover and actually go higher, but I would put that on the lower end of the spectrum for now. So just plan ahead, make your preparations for what you think is going to happen. And again, as I've said a lot of times, if you're sort of a long-term investor looking to hold for the next year or two, be getting ready and prepared because I think very good buying opportunities are going to come up reasonably soon. So plan, prepare, have certain targets that if it hits, you're going to buy it and stick to that plan because especially with the low targets, like between 10 and 14, if it hits there, there's going to be so much fear around and people are going to be saying that crypto's over, Bitcoin's over and stuff, and there's fear. So then you get to that price where you think, oh, that'd be a great entry if I could buy there. But when it gets to it, because everyone's saying it's completely over, you think, well, should I buy there? Because what if it is over and I buy there and I just waste my money? So you've got to buy when everyone's fearful and sell when everyone's ecstatic, whatever something along those lines is the saying. So basically, buy the fear, sell the greed. That's the best way to do it. So have a set plan and just stick to that plan and just say, look, if it hits there, I'm going to buy. Kind of, you could ladder them in. You could say from 16 down. I'm going to buy at 16, buy at 15, buy at 14, and just as low as it decides to go. But remember that with those buys, especially if that happens in the next couple of months, you're going to be holding them for at least a year or two to really see those returns on it. So you have to be willing to hold that for a long time. If you're not willing to hold it for a long time, to be honest, then you're probably better holding on to that money for now and using it elsewhere. Even, investing in a business that you could try and grow over the next year to then have even more money available to put into crypto within in like a year's time. Like if you're looking to get your returns short term, unless you're actively trading the market, then if you want short term returns, you're probably better off right now at this moment in time investing in yourself and into a business, getting that set up. You've got a year to get that going and earn that money back to be able to then put into crypto. a year, even maybe longer than a year. So that's what I'd say. But obviously, if you're a long-term investor and you're happy to be waiting 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get your returns, then buying now is fine. But like I said, I wouldn't be buying too many things outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum right now, because until we're closer to the next bull run, we're not really going to know who's in a good position and who's going to survive. I've got coins that I'm watching now that I think I've spoke about a couple that I think are gonna do well in the next run, but I won't be buying into any of them until a lot closer, until you can see, okay, yeah, that they seem to have survived the worst. They look like they're in a position to do well, because in the next year there's a lot more projects that are going to completely die off. So you don't pull the trigger too early, and hold on to it, watch it, and we can make some money. So I hope you enjoyed this week. It was very good fun having a guest on. We're going to be having more of them. Going to keep growing it and get some different subjects covered. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover on the podcast, or you'd like to appear on it, then please contact us at hwpoduk@gmail.com, on our website, which is healthwealthuk.com, or on any of our social medias, which are at hwpoduk. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share it with all your friends and family, and we will see you next week.